All right. So as I said, this meeting is being recorded. A quick reminder before we get going. I see a lot of people that we haven't seen in a long time, which is great and exciting. Happy 2023. You're always welcome. Meetings are public and free. However, it helps if you become a member. It's $20 a year. It's hopefully not a lot, but it does add up for us. We don't do a lot of fundraising, so every little bit counts. And to do that, you can go to our website, which is svslvdemocrats.org. I will copy that into the chat as well. And there's a section on the website where you can click to become a member. And then if you have any questions, you can always contact us. Okay, great. And so now I would like to open it up because we had great plans of a very orderly meeting with the county health director, and that all went sideways for many reasons, but obviously because we're experiencing some unusual weather, and I know this is affecting everybody, some people more than others, but I just wanted to sort of touch base and open it up so that people can share what they're going through. And I'm sure some of this can be, don't feel like you have to find a message in this, but it is maybe a good space and opportunity to talk about what frustrations we have, how we've been able to help other people, what needs we kind of see in the community for more of that. Sort of, you know, if there's messages to be had here that we could use going forward, that's great. If not, just, you know, share whatever you'd like to share. And so we're going to try and keep this to about 20 minutes, but would anybody like to start? Okay, interesting. Great. Well, and then I guess, Jack, if you want to continue, I will let you.
Sure.
share.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks. Yeah, Ray asked me to talk about the mayoral duties, what I do as the mayor, and then talk about what's going on in Scotts Valley. And I thought in talking about Scotts Valley, I'll also, of course, talk about the storm and try not to do what we've already talked about, but just kind of what the city's been doing. And so the duties are kind of short and sweet because there's nothing overly special about the mayor, but you have certain honorary duties and responsibilities. So you get to run city council meetings. You coordinate the council committee process, which can be interesting because everybody wants certain committees and not everybody can get those certain committees. So there's lots of good discussion around that. I get to issue mayor's proclamations, which is really fun. So any deserving person or business who has done something good for the city can get recognized, and you don't have to necessarily be a city resident, but whatever you're doing needs to have helped the city. I get to serve as the official spokesperson for the city council. We all have opinions, and of course there's the Constitution, but the mayor's supposed to talk about what the council, where the council's going and what the standard line is for the council and so forth. You can push it a little bit, but you're supposed to be representing the council. I get to attend local and countywide meetings as the city's representative, and there are lots of invitations like that. I get to write mayor's articles in the press. So you'll be seeing articles in the press banner and in the Scotts Valley Times soon. And then I get to set city council agendas with the city manager, sit down before each meeting and agree on what's going to be on the agenda. And then lastly, I get to sign resolutions, ordinances, and other city documents for perpetuity. So that's important, but it's, you know, it's service level in a way. All the council members have the authority to act as a group and to, you know, to same votes and all that kind of stuff. We don't have a strong mayor here. So anyway, but it'll be fun. So I'm mayor for 1 year. I'm really happy that Alan Timms got elected to the city council. I mentioned him earlier a little bit. but he's jumping right in. He's got a great business and team building experience history and for a tech company in town, and he's great. And I see him. He cares about things like diversity. He cares about the arts. He's a scientist on some level, and I know he's used to be an actor and so forth. So he's got a lot of great characteristics. He's down to earth, and I'm really grateful that this club endorsed him and helped him to get elected. So thank you for that, because he's a great addition to the city council. So stay tuned for more from Alan. The storm is all we're really doing right now. I mean, not exclusively, but that's what everybody's attention is at the city on all levels, just because we have to make sure nothing worse happens than if it doesn't have to happen, then we don't want it to happen. So the crews have been working, the maintenance crews overtime, just to make sure all the places that could flood are not clogged up, and just going all over town, and particularly along the Carbonero Creek. And near some of the couple of the mobile home parks that are near the water, just to make sure they're doing okay. And we've helped them out a little bit where there was water. But we really have avoided major problems so far here. We have issues. We have trees down. We have wires down. We've had roads blocked temporarily. We have slides that have, and I'm talking about within the city limits to start with. So we don't have a whole lot of stuff. You will see up past the high school in Glenwood, there's a slide coming out in the road a bit. Over on Green Hills Road on the other side of the freeway, there's one lane closed with a pretty big slide, but we don't have any of the sinkholes or the problems with undermining roads or those kind of things, or giant hillsides coming down. Still going to take some work to fix those, but nothing dramatic. Oh, and just before I forget, if they ask you to evacuate, please evacuate. Nobody wants anybody to get covered with dirt, so please evacuate, or water. Let's see. I heard today that from the sheriff's office, I think I read it somewhere, that most of the trees and fallen wires are all in the San Lorenzo Valley, because of course there are so many trees there, and roads and so forth. So and I know we hear a lot about Capitola and Aptos, and those are big issues, but it sounds like most of the number of issues is high in San Lorenzo Valley. That's where a lot of the stuff is happening, as you've been showing with the photos and the stories. So in Scotts Valley, we also have some damage to our sewer plant, and that's important. We need to make sure our wastewater plant continues, and it is continuing, but staff had to really scramble to, we have some aging infrastructure there, and anyway, we're not used to handling as much water, anywhere, but a lot of water through the wastewater plant is not necessarily, at one time, is not a good thing. So it caused some damage to some of the pipes. They've been replaced and they're working okay, but it was momentarily kind of scary to think that, there could be a major problem in a wastewater plant. We don't want that to happen. A lot of the roads coming into town, as you know, I'm sure, coming into Scotts Valley have been out of commission. Whether Granite Creek, I looked at that sinkhole out of the town, but so you can't drive Granite Creek between Scotts Valley and Santa Cruz. Glenwood has its problems. Let's see. I know Mount Hermon was closed for a while because of all the flooding in Felton, and Bean Creek is closed, and so there are just a lot of the roads we're used to using around Scotts Valley aren't available. Police and fire have been out there also, of course, helping people as needed. And we talked about the community center. It's called a temporary evacuation point. So we're not calling the community center a shelter. We're calling it a temporary evacuation point, a place to help folks, give them information, give them a little bit of sustenance, and a place to park. Let's see. Oh, just also I know Ray put a bunch of good citations in the email today about where to find help. I know we've all heard the term Zone Haven, but I was impressed with how that's improved. It's pretty easy now to go to Zone Haven, put any address in there, and it'll come back and tell you whether or not you're in a place that needs to be evacuated. So I found that helpful. So anyway, that's just a little bit on the storm and what we're doing. If I didn't mention sand, I did mention sand, I think. But anyway, we have sand and bags by the fire station in in Scotts Valley on Urban Lane, and I know there are numerous places in SLV, including the fire stations, that also have sand and sandbags available that can help. So I thought I'd talk next about housing. That's a big issue. I know most of us really care about that, especially anybody that wants to live in a house. You want to make sure there are houses to live in. And so we've got this Regional Housing Needs Assessment Goal, or RHNA. And that's a process, where basically cities are allocated and counties allocated how many homes you need to build, in this case, in the next 8-year cycle, 8 years from the middle of 2023. And so the state says, hey, you need to plan for that. You need to encourage that. And you need to adopt a housing element, part of your general plan, that will encourage that. And you need to not do things that will undermine that process. And the state is watching us. They have an enforcement arm and all that right now. And so we need to be on board, and we are on board. We need more homes, and we have these requirements and this goal. It's going to be a tough goal, but we need to do everything we can to get there. And so recently, we may have touched this on this last meeting, but the city council did recently approve a 52-unit apartment building, which is a great start, at the corner of Mount Herman Road and Glen Canyon. It's called the Oak Creek Park Project, and I know Linda spoke in favor of the project, and so did anyway. We had other speakers, and let's see. So we approved that, and it's great because we actually got some very low and low units. We had a total of 8 affordable units. That's a long way from 1,200, and unfortunately, these 8 don't count towards the 1,200 because we're not quite at that cycle. But so what? We're getting housing, we're getting affordable units, and actually, it would be the whole 52 that would count towards the goals. But nonetheless, it's a great start, and it's rental housing, which we haven't built in a long time. And there's also 29,000 square feet of commercial property there. So it's a little denser than we're used to, but that's the reality now. We just, land is too valuable, and we need to build what we can to meet the housing needs. So anyway, I'm happy we did that. We unanimously approved that, the council, and that's on its way. We have various other projects coming our way. Some are stalled, some need rezoning, et cetera. But I thought I'd just touch on some of the more significant ones, just to give you an update. And of course, it's harder right now, I think, for developers because of interest rates, and because investors want to invest in something that's going to make economic sense for them, and this is making it tougher. So we need, I guess, try extra hard to do what we can to accommodate the housing needs. Let's see. First, I'm sure you've seen under construction the Encore. That's 16 condominiums across from the middle school on Scotts Valley Drive. I'm happy to see they have some elevators, which is helpful for disabled and so forth, disabled folks. And they've got, I think, a thoughtful project, and we'll see that. If you go by, you'll see a real high blue structure, and it's the elevator, apparently, to the frame of that. The place has been built, but they need to put the elevator shaft in first. Let's see. There's a Marriott Residence Hotel that was approved back in 2015 or 16, and it's but the developer has never, who's a local guy, has never built the hotel. Would be the only extended stay hotel in in the county. But he's struggled, I think, with financing, and financing would be harder now. But at any rate, it's there between the Enterprise buildings, the Polo Ranch homes, and there's another the homes there by the highway. Anyway, so there's a big space there, and that's intended to be a hotel someday. We've got Valley Gardens. People ask about that, but it's still in this pending place, going through the environmental impact review and discussions. There's conversations that staff have with the developer. So I'm not sure how many units there are right now, but it's supposed to be well over 100, and some commercial. I'd heard from the developer a while back that they were not going to do any rental housing. Initially, they had proposed some rental and mostly for sale. So we'll see where that one goes. I think the folks who were going to miss the golf course, that's kind of past, because you can't miss something that's there, not there anymore. So that may change the acceptability of that to some folks in the community. And it is zoned open space, so that's a big ask to zone something rezone from open space to something to be developed. But you also don't want it to burn up in a fire or those kind of things either. So then there's a place over on corner of La Madrona and by the freeway. There's a large place there, and that they would also need some rezoning, but they've got an EIR out there to develop still a 180 room hotel and 182 housing units. And they one time they were talking about senior units. At least half of those would be senior units. I don't know if that's still the case, and that seems to have slowed down, and not much is happening on that. But that still is out there in discussion phases. So those were the big ones. And then we have obviously houses here and there being built. And I'm personally a proponent of ADUs as well. We need all of this. We need everything we can do to attack that. And I like ADUs because they blend into, I think, neighborhoods more easily in an established neighborhood. And I personally think it can be a good investment for somebody that has the money, a homeowner, to invest and build a new unit there. So that's a bit on housing and development. Oh, and of course, Town Center is bubbling along. It's been a long time. We did hire a consultant, and the consultant is working with a subcommittee of our city council and city staff, to come up with an 18-month timeline and a report about the steps we might take towards getting a town center. And that's going to come to the council. I haven't seen it yet, and we'll have a discussion and invite the community and all that. And they plan to have community meetings as part of that timeline. And we have, I'm waiting to see the results, but I know we've been doing, along with the city of Santa Cruz, doing testing of any potential toxics in the land, just to get more information, because that was sort of a question mark when the last developer came in and was looking at developing. That there were some question marks around that environmental status. So we're trying to get that information known so that we can have an easier conversation with a developer when that happens. And let's see, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI training was on our city council's goals this year, and we have had training for all the employees and also the city council. So I was very happy to see that. We had a retreat, if we call it that. It was actually a public meeting, but it was a chance just to try and get educated in DEI principles and ask questions. And so it was a very good process. And our new council member, who was not yet a council member, Alan Timms, actually participated in that as well. So that was helpful as a member of the public. So we invited him in. And so I think I see that as really, for me, I've been here 26 years in Scotts Valley, and I just see that as a very positive change in the folks I see that are embracing DEI. And we've had our issues, certainly. And so anyway, so I'm very hopeful for the future, and the fact that we have this opportunity to just to look at things through a different lens and love everybody, whoever they are, and appreciate people. So that's where I see us going. Then last thing to talk about is we have a city council workshop, a 2-day workshop, where we're going to basically get reports from staff about the status of a whole bunch of things and talk about where we're going and where we should be going, and where we've been and where we are, and just the whole ball of wax over 2 days. And it sounds like a long time, but in fact, we've got just little snippets of time for every one of the very important projects that we have. But just to give you an idea, we'll be reviewing our goals for the year that we're in now. How are we doing? We'll be talking about the budget to see where our numbers are halfway through the year, and also do we have any, how are our revenues trending? How careful do we need to be about the recession? Because I think we will have a recession, but I'm hoping it's going to be mild. And all kinds of things happening, and so where's our economy going to land? It seems like it's getting better in some ways. Interest rates are coming down a little bit, and inflation is coming down and interest rates are going up, unfortunately. But we'll be talking again about where we spend our money, what our priorities are, what we care about, what we have to do, what we could do with our discretionary dollars, because we've got money that we have to spend a certain way, and then we've got money that we have control over. How do we want to spend it? So that's where the real conversations come in. We'll talk about the capital improvement program, how we're doing, and what in a big picture, kind of where we're going. But there are a few specifics that are really positive. We did get it got approved in this latest round of large federal funding. We're getting $750,000 to replace the playground equipment at Sky Park, which is getting older and used by lots of families, and so that'll be a great thing. And I think we're going to have we haven't fully had the conversation, but I think this is the one thing we're going to push this year as part of these discussions: parks and cycling, parks and pedestrian and bicycle improvements and support. So that's something I'm hoping that we'll embrace, and I think that's what's coming. We're also getting $1 million plus to build a new after school program building on Vine Hill School. We've had one, and we also have one over at Broken Old School. And we know what we think we'll have enough money to replace one of them, and we're hoping to get the money to replace 2 of them. But again, that was federal funding, so that's a good thing. And childcare, we've had a very popular program for many years. It went away during COVID times, and it came back, but we've kind of handed it off to the school district. The school district is now contracting with third party, but the school district is kind of in control of how that program goes out, and it makes a lot of sense. It's at the school site, and so anyway, we think that's taking off very well, but we do need a new buildings, and we've got some funding coming our way. And we also need a new public works building. We basically, it was way past its prime, and in fact, it was dangerous for our employees to be in there. So we're not using it anymore. We've moved our public works, has been a while now, but we moved those folks into what's called the recreation building there in Sky Park. But we do plan to build a public works building and move the public works staff back to their own location, since that's kind of a small place there at recreation. We'll also hear about more about recreation, in particular about the programs we're running and or contracting out for, and renting out buildings. We'll get a police department update. Where are we there? And we're pretty well staffed right now. We had some really lean times there for a while where we lost half our police employees, and the chief himself was out patrolling in town, which you don't want. You want the chief to be there to be able to manage and support the folks driving the police cars, and so he needs to be in that. So anyway, we're back to pretty much a normal complement of 20 officers, and I think it's 8 dispatchers, all great workers, and but we know we need to pay them enough or we'll lose them again. So that's important to us, that we pay all of our employees enough, because it's so hard to hire employees just about anywhere these days. We'll hear about the community development updates. I talked already about housing projects and other projects in the pipeline. We talked about town center. Legislative issues we're going to talk about, and this is something I want to talk about. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but we need to get a little more, we need to have our commissions work a little bit better. We have some great commissioners, but we need to talk about the purpose of the committees. And by that, I mean like our planning commission, our parks and rec commission, our arts commission, and there are others. We have some wonderful volunteers in the community that are expert in their areas, but we need to communicate better with them. We need to be clear with them about what expectations are, and we need to be efficient about how we use our resources to support them. So that'll be, I think, a good conversation to have. And we want to talk about community engagement, more about how we reach folks through social media. We've been doing these surveys. The city managers has staff who's been surveying the community lately, and we're trying to get feedback about what the community wants. And so we're going to explore that more. How can we reach the community more? How can we find out what's on folks' minds? What do folks care about? Where they think we should be putting our resources? All those kind of things. So we need to know that, in my opinion. We're supposed to lead as city council, but we're also supposed to reflect what the community wants. And so those both need to happen. It's a balancing. Michael Schulman and I love to have conversations about the two sides of that, because we're not exactly in sync, which makes it a good conversation. And lastly, we'll talk about our new strategic goals and what we think should be on that list. So anyway, that's an overview of where we are at the city, and I'm happy to answer any questions and hope that was useful.
Great. And we do have a couple. Let me start. One person asked, what is the definition of affordable for Scotts Valley housing when you're talking about building affordable housing?
Yes, well, we have, there are these different percentages of, first you look at the average household income in our county, and that's calculated outside of our county. I'm not sure calculates that. If that's the state of California, I believe calculates that. And then you've got these 50, I think it's 50%, 80%, and 120% of that income. And it also looks at size of families, number of bedrooms, and that kind of thing. And so anything that's 120%, when I say that, I'm sorry. What I mean to say is, if your income is 50% or 80% or 120% of average income, how much can you afford to buy? And so that income level translates into, can you afford to pay 30% of the cost of a home? And if you can't, then the price of if the average person can't do that. So if say you earn 120% of average income, your household does, that 120%, if you make that income, then, and that's called the moderate affordable. If you make that income, then can you afford, then the most you're going to have to pay, if you're the lucky person that gets one of these affordable units, the most you have to pay is 30% of your income. And so the developer needs to price the homes down to a level where you're not paying more than 30% of your income. And the same is true with the low, which is 80%, I believe, of average income, or the very low, which is 50% of average income. And so you can see developers are going to charge a whole lot less for those affordable units, whether it's rental or whether it's for sale. The same kind, a similar formula works. So I hope that's clear. It's I could map it out, but it basically has to do with developers pricing affordable units at a point where you don't have to pay, as a buyer or a renter, you don't have to pay more than 30% of your income for that housing.
Okay, Interesting.
Hope
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
clear.
It would be interesting to have ballpark numbers. Just I know you can't. That sort of depends, but I'd be curious about that. But so maybe we could find that out at some other time.
Okay, you
Um,
mean what the actual numbers are?
well, I'd be just curious. What's like,
Yeah.
for example, what is an average? What's average income in Scotts Valley right now? And
Okay.
I guess we could figure out percentages from there. But just
Yeah, I don't have those at my fingertips, but yes,
yeah,
we could. Yeah.
yeah, we can look it up too.
Okay.
Okay, great. So and then there was another question somebody else had. Let me just pull that up. No, I'm missing. Okay, I'll go to Glenn. Go ahead, Glenn.
So, not so much questions, but a couple things. One is you mentioned giving commendations or whatever, letters of recognition to businesses and people who do things. The Hilton here has been is bent over backward, taking on refugees and PG&E or SDG&E, whatever, imported linemen. For example, Hilton has a policy about dogs. It's 50-pound limit, and there are a bunch of 90-pound dogs here that they have just totally ignored because they know what's going on, and they've taken us in, and it's turned into a refugee community here practically. So I don't know if that qualifies as
Yeah, but who was
worthy of
this?
the Hilton in Scotts
Oh, the
Valley.
Hilton. Oh, wonderful. Okay.
I'm right down the
So I
street.
didn't. Yes, I'd like to. I guess I'd like to know more about that.
Sure. Which is good. I'm glad you said that, because the other part I wanted to tee up with you is a conversation for later. If you're going to pour money into Sky Park, I'd really like to talk to you about getting some of that into the dog park section of the park.
Yeah, I know we've talked before about the dog park. I know
right.
Yes.
Well, I'm a frequent user, and in particular comparing it to, say, University Terrace, if you've ever been there.
Okay, I know University Terrace. Yeah, my mother-in-law, we have a memorial bench at that park, so I know the park well.
Okay.
And they do have a nice dog place.
Excuse me, someone's calling me.
And I would second that, and Alina just beat me to it in the comments here, but the Hilton was great during the fires as well in terms of just being really flexible for people who needed housing all of a sudden. Marianne, why don't you go? Oh, muted. There we go.
We used to have a very productive, excellent disability committee. And we have a lot of seniors and people that are differently abled in this community. But it was disbanded by one of your council members, from what I understand. Is there any possibility, because the need is great, of getting that committee back?
Yes, there is. That's part of the reason why I brought up the need to talk about our commissions. I didn't call that one out, but that has been the most awkward part of the commissions. We have 5 council members, and each one of us normally appoints a member to that committee and the other committees. It has to be ratified by the council as a whole, but basically we each have our own say. And we only have 2 of us, and I'm one of the 2 that does have an appointee, but the committee cannot meet unless there are at least 3 folks on there. And I know one of our council members did ask the then committee member to leave, and I thought for good reasons, but nonetheless, whatever the reasons were good or not, it's an awkward place then to just only have 2 members, not be able to conduct business, and then not do anything about it. So we need to do something about it, whether we, and I personally want to hear what the other councilors have to say, but that is a valuable committee. We have lots of seniors and disabled folks that might benefit from that. And so we need to talk about that, and we need to find out, okay, if there is something about the committee that some council members don't like, then let's fix that. What is it? Is it communication? Is it a mission? In other words, do we tell the committee this is what we want you to do? Because I sense there were times where council members might be saying this, and some committee members might be saying that. Good conversation, but we didn't do a very good job of meeting and talking about, okay, what do we want? What would help the community? What would satisfy everybody? Because I think it's there. We just need to get there. So, so it's my intent to specifically bring up that committee and talk about how we can be functional and actually have enough people on the committee.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great. I had one last question, which is a point of clarification, and then we will move on. You mentioned the general plan for housing, this 8-year cycle, and the assessment. And I think the number you threw out was 1,200 houses. Is that affordable units, or is that houses in total?
No, it's in total.
Dwelling.
Yeah, 1,220 dwellings. Could be rental or could be for sale. And the affordable numbers are something roughly like they're the goal. That's a goal. And they're telling us we need to plan for that, zone for that. But I think the affordable numbers are something like 2/3 of that. Somewhere north of 60% are supposed to be affordable. Now that's the biggest challenge, because even with our inclusionary ordinances as 15%, that's 15% is a long way from 60% affordable. But 15% is something that we're comfortable with, something that developers can work with. The way you get to those higher percentages, I think, is somehow doing an all affordable place. We haven't, and maybe we talked about doing the town center, the last project that came through, and then the developer backed out. There was going to be a building, at least one building, that was all affordable. And that's the kind of place where you can get tax credits and you have a better chance of getting some of those higher percentages. But we need to get literally a complex or buildings that are all affordable, I think, to be able to get anywhere near those affordable numbers of, say, at 60% of 1,220 would be something like between 700 and 800 homes, I think, would be, and that's a lot of affordable units and very difficult to do. City doesn't have money to finance that. We own some of that land in Sky Park, which helps, and we have some affordable commitments there. But the city of Santa Cruz owns that land and most of the good part of the land. So there are a lot of moving pieces. But it's not all affordable, but some of it has to be affordable, and the numbers say most of it should be affordable. The numbers from the RENA process. It's a tough road.
Okay, well, yeah, but that clarifies a little bit of what the situation is. So fantastic. Okay, well, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, I think Linda had a comment, maybe. Let's unmute her.
Mute.
Sorry, I have the numbers for the affordability levels. So for the new housing element cycle, it's would be 392 very low units, 257 low units, 154 moderate, and 417 above moderate, and that gets you to the 1,220 figure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, great. Well, Jack, thank you so much for being our speaker today.
Thank you.
We are going to move on. Tim has the results of I know it feels like a million years ago now, but our November election game, which was that people took or made bets. I guess bets is not quite the right word, but guessed at what was happening. Yes, go ahead.
For those of you who weren't tuned into meetings before the election, we set up this game. It's kind of like a football or a basketball pool where you're picking the winners. And so there were 20 questions. And so I'll just give you an example. Question 1, Gail Pellerin versus Liz Lawler. Pellerin wins by under 3%. Pellerin wins between 3 and 7%. Pellerin wins by over 7%. Pellerin loses. So it was like a multiple choice. So there were a possible of 20 points, 1 point for each question. And so here are the winners. So third place goes to Kate Minot. Kate, third place. And separating third from second was only 1 point. But second place, we have a four-way tie with Coco, Linda, Ray, and Laura. So they're all in second place. And then there's only 1 point separating that from first place. And our winner is Jack. See, that's why he's mayor, because he can figure out all these politics. So
Wow.
Congratulations, Jack. So Jack, I want to tell you, we are really working hard on your prize. Okay. So we've been in communication with Lauren Bobart, and we're trying to see if she could come in and tell you how you can wear a pistol to the council meetings. But if that may fall through, but we're also working with Matt Gates, and we think that, you know, he knows how to get onto Fox News. And so we thought he could do a little consulting with you because, you know, I'm sorry, Jack, but you're just not quite media savvy yet. So
Okay.
he will train you for Fox News.
Wow.
If both of those fall through, we'll come up with something else.
I look forward to that. Can I wear a hood?
Sure.
Yikes. All right.
about a
Well,
hoodie?
congratulations.
Thank
Big winner. All right. So we are going to move on to club business, which the first item is to approve the November meeting minutes, which, if anyone was paying attention, you just got these today because I realized that I didn't send them out. And this would also ideally, as a general rule, we say the people who are at the November meeting are probably the ones and who are members. Oh, actually, I'll pivot again. I failed to mention this at the beginning, but another one of the things that happens when you become a member by paying your $20 a year member dues and signing up on the website is that then you get to vote on club actions, including the very exciting action of approving the minutes. So,
I paid my dues, so I will move that we accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, and this is a consensus one. Remind me, someone, I'm new at this.
All in favor?
Okay, yes, all in favor, say aye or raise a hand or.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so approved, I think. No objectives, great. Okay, the next item of business is that we have made some modifications to the bylaws. The bylaws, the current bylaws can be found on our website, but we've also sent out an amended, a draft, which shows what it would look like as amended, and also a redlined copy which shows where those changes were made. So go ahead, Linda.
If you'd like, Ray, I can summarize the significant changes for people if they didn't have a chance to take a close look at them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first change was the eligibility for being a member who's eligible to vote, to approve minutes and vote on candidates at our endorsement forums. And the language used to be that you had to be an active club paid member for 2 months before any like endorsement form. And that got a little difficult to track. And so the language has been changed, and I hope people are okay with this, is that members have to have paid dues no later than the last scheduled meeting before like an endorsement forum. So you can't just come the night of the forum, pay your dues and be able to vote. But if you pay your dues the meeting before, the regularly scheduled meeting before, then you're considered a member in good standing and you're able to vote. So, and then another change was we had one member at large on the e-board for each 20 members of the club. And that also got a little tricky because our membership number of members changed. And so we might have 2 members at large on the e-board, and then our membership drops. And oh, really, we need to tell somebody they have to step down. So we decided to change the language just to have 2 members at large instead of basing them on a number of members. So hope folks are okay with that. The third change was if we, and this has come up rarely, but it has come up, if there's a time-sensitive matter that requires a vote from the full membership before our next scheduled meeting, the e-board can, by a majority vote, approve the full membership vote by email. And then at the next meeting, the results of that vote would be announced. So that's come up, I think, at least once that I can remember. And then in the case of a contested election, we had some kind of clunky language on how to deal with that. And we've added language to use the ranked choice voting process. And that language is, I think, pretty clear in the amended bylaws.
May I just add, since I've actually officiated a number of ranked choice, I've been the election officer for a number of ranked choice voting. If you people have questions about RCV, I'm happy to answer them, whatever they have.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe we are just we're not making any motions to approve today, but we are quote unquote reading the bylaws today. So
right, we're just reviewing the changes, and then we will vote to approve them at our meeting in February. So there were a couple other changes, some additional language to the responsibilities of the treasurer, just to clarify some of the duties that the treasurer has that wasn't in the bylaws. And when we have positions change, it's nice to have that information in the bylaws so people know who's responsible for doing what. Also, the membership coordinator, we added language who we need somebody to step up and fill that position. We added language to that person would maintain the membership list, including when dues were paid, which is kind of an important function, especially when we have an endorsement form coming up and we need to know who can vote. And just maintaining the membership list of paid members is important. And then the final change was for resolution endorsements, add state. We had local and national issues, but we didn't have state, so we added state. And also we added language that those endorsements cannot contradict endorsements made by the California Democratic Party. So those are the most significant changes or revisions in the bylaws.
great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, if you have any questions, you can email us and we will get back to you. Okay, the treasurer's report. You are muted.
Sorry about that. We have $7,116.64 in the bank at the moment. That's up from December 6th when we had $6,944.56.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, moving on to other reports. Let's see, Santa Cruz Democratic Central Committee. Does anyone have anything from the DCC? No. Okay. Moving on. Affordable housing.
I was going to comment on the Oak Creek Park project, but Jack did that for me. And I just want to say that's a great project and the city needs that housing. And I just am so happy that the city council is moving that project forward. It's a good thing.
Fantastic. Let's see. Local government. So I have a couple people here. Donna, why don't you kick it off and then we'll see if Alina has something to say.
Hi, thank you very much. I really wasn't expecting to make a report tonight, but let's see what I can bring off the top of my head. So Cabrillo College postponed its board meeting, which was scheduled for Monday of this week, for numerous reasons related to the storms and people's availability and accessibility. So we are scheduled to meet again on Monday next, if I recall correctly, if everybody is available. So just to recap what's been going on, in the November election, there were three of us, three of the board members up for re-election. All three of us were re-elected. Thank you for your endorsement. One of our board members who was not up for re-election, but who was seeking election to the County Board of Supervisors, Felix Hernandez, he was elected. So at this point, he has resigned his position as a board member, and he has been sworn in as a supervisor representing a portion of Watsonville. And Felix will be great, I'm sure, at that job. We therefore have a vacancy, and we, on one of the agenda items, which will be on the Monday agenda, is whether or not we will seek to appoint a replacement for Felix Hernandez or run an election. My expectation is that we will vote to appoint a replacement for him temporarily until his term is up in 2025. Yeah, but I don't know that for certain until we take the vote. If that is what happens, we will post an announcement. We will solicit applications. We will have a form available for people to fill out, and we will hold that appointment interview session at the Watsonville campus because it is a Watsonville position. In the meantime, we are we're moving forward with our student housing application. That is due January 23rd, I believe. And so pushing our meeting forward as we had to do, that's going to make it really tight. But we have really good planning documents and proposals from our consultant so that we can make, I think we're going to make a very strong case. In the past, so the state has authorized funding for student housing in sort of a 3-year segment. The first year was last year. We applied but did not meet the criteria, or we were not successful. This is the second year, and this is our second attempt. This time, our proposal will include a joint effort with the University of California, Santa Cruz, so that our proposal will essentially double the number of beds that we are seeking funding to support from 300 to 600, and will include apartments for students with families, and will include a child care center for those children, and will include the work of running that facility, all of the work involved in managing that facility will fall to UCSC because they already have, they have the kind of experience in running dormitories and student housing that the community colleges do not have in general, and Cabrillo specifically does not have. So it's a great partnership. Last round of funding, the proposal that ranked top in the system, and mind you, in the community college system, there are 116 individual campuses. There are 72 districts, and of those, I think maybe, I don't know, 5 have student housing already. So this is a whole new, venue for us to be looking at. And in the last round, the proposal that ranked first was a joint proposal between San Diego State and the Imperial Valley campuses of the community college system. So it was a joint proposal between the community colleges and the CSU. We believe that joint proposals are going to rank higher, and we believe that our proposal with UC Santa Cruz will rank high in that regard. So we're sending in the proposal. I think we've done a great job. If anybody is interested, you can go to the Cabrillo website and excuse me, seek. I'm not sure the exact address for this, but look for the student housing proposal, and you can see design proposals, the architectural designs that are proposed. The site that is proposed for this is at the athletic fields, if anybody's familiar with that, sort of directly across from the what is it called? The big religious center there. Forest Lakes.
Twin Lakes, right?
Twin Lakes.
Twin Lakes.
Right across from Twin Lakes. Thank you. And it's really a vacant lot, a vacant parcel right now. It's been used for various sports facilities and students to work out, but it hasn't been like a designated playing field or any other specific use. So it's available, and it's a perfect spot for the site. I'm very excited about this. I'm sorry that the state did not propose funding that would help with faculty and staff housing, because that's a definite need. But we're moving forward with the student housing. The criteria that the state established requires that the students be, very low income, housing insecure, and that our rates be set at a certain level that is, I don't remember. Jack was talking about percentages of average income. I don't remember exactly what the criteria is but it has to be for students who qualify for a low income level of rent. And then finally, the name change issue has been resolved. We are going to change the name of the college. The committee that was responsible for doing all of the research and doing all of the outreach took a bit of a break, and well-deserved. They are coming back into session now and are going to be looking at ways in which they can propose name changes to the board. They expect to have those recommendations to us by, I'm trying to remember now, the end of the spring term, or in August, if I'm not mistaken, in advance of the fall 23 term. They're consulting with colleges on the East Coast that have gone through this process and are learning from them about what they know and what they've learned. I see that Glenn had a question about, let me see what he said, a process for input. You know what, Glenn, I'm not positive about that. They haven't indicated what the process is going to be yet. So stay tuned. We've heard.
I just think it's important that it just not be a star chamber,
Right. And people have, from far and wide have made recommendations. I think that Wallace Bain has come up with, Manzanita and all kinds of other recommendations have come forward. So we'll see what the process is. I'm not quite sure. Go, if you're really interested, please go to the website for name change and see. I think I've told you this before, but my youngest granddaughter is a junior at UC Santa Barbara this year, and I went down for move-in, and I was driving around Santa Barbara area and the Goleta area, and everywhere I looked, something was named Cabrillo. A housing, a facility or a shopping center or a road or, so it's, for me, it's been a deeply heartfelt struggle for me to figure this out. But I think for the rest of us, it's like, where do we go with this, and where does this stop, and what does this mean? And some people are thinking this is the beginning of a trend, so we'll see what happens with all of it.
I was going to suggest Hogwarts.
Hogwarts? Yeah. Okay. Send it in or send it to me and I'll forward it, Glenn.
That's right.
I'm sure there's copyright.
We'll see what comes up.
Okay. So thank you very much for that. That's all great to hear everything that's still going on. It'll be interesting to hear who ends up filling Hernandez's position as well, but and how the housing application goes as well. But that's very hopeful. We have here Alina Lang from the SLV Water District, who I'm hoping can give us some input as to what's going on in that arena.
Yeah, well, I sit on the Environmental and Engineering Committee, and I was just reappointed again. We haven't had our next meeting because this board meeting got canceled because of the weather. So, but we did have a meeting in December and a board meeting in December, and the big topic of discussion was the 5-mile pipeline that burned during the CZU fire. Sorry, we have the sheriff rolling by. I'm not sure. No one ever comes up here to protect us, but that's interesting. So what we looked at was the peer review of the cross-county pipeline. So they had initially one company review it, and then they had another company come in and look a little bit closer at the LiDAR data so we could address the slope class and choke points to be able to get a big equipment in there. And it's because, the big discussion, as people probably know, is like, are we going to bury it or are we going to replace it in kind, which is putting it back on top of the surface like we had before. So this last peer review, it wasn't very positive for the fact that we're going to be able to bury it, just because there's so many areas that we can't access with large equipment into those areas. And also they're back and forth on if we can't bury it at all, is there a point to bury any of it? Because if you have a section of it burned, those VOCs end up traveling. And so you've now contaminated a whole pipeline that you would have to literally go back in and dig up. And then also in the board meeting, they talked a lot about like how we would get these access points, about, we'd have to cut out helicopter pads and new roads and the environmental impact on that. And I know during the board meeting, like Gail Mahood She's now stepped down from being president in the last meeting, but she was very concerned. She is a geologist, about, the geomorphological situation that we have going on here, and that we go up and we trench into these mountains that are highly slide prone, that we could end up creating more slides, and that we could impact people's homes and people that are downstream. And a big thing that was brought out in the peer review is that our watershed is listed under a 303D Clean Water Act that is impaired by sediments. So if we went in and trenched all this line back up and caused more slides, that, we would be putting more sediments into the river, and, we'd be doing more harm than actual good. So we're kind of, again, at a standstill about like what we want to do. I feel like there was a little bit of disagreement in the Environmental and Engineering Committee between the district engineer and Rick Rogers, the district manager, is that the engineer felt that we could get to it 100% berry and protected, and Rick Rogers really felt we couldn't. So that means, like, if we're at a stream crossing, we can bring in still and go above a stream crossing where, like, we can't go under. But there's still, like, the still is very heavy. And so that's a really huge issue of how we're going to helicopter that in and where these helicopter pads are going to go. So we're still really at that point, and how the last board meeting ended is that Mark Smalley, who is now the new president, is asking that they come back with a cost comparison between what it would cost to go above ground and go below ground. And we're kind of waiting there to see what happens. And I think that what the district is really asking is that we release them and say it's okay to do a P vine above ground and just rip through it, because it's a really short line compared to Foreman Creek. And so we can at least get that surface water back online. But we are right now 100% surface water fed. So that's good news for our groundwater. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the only update. Kind of wait until this Thursday, since the last meeting was canceled. We don't have any meetings on the docket or anything because we haven't been able to meet.
What is to recap a little bit, because I'm not sure how attentive people were in the Scotts Valley area, but for a lot of the places that burnt in the SLV area, after the fires, a lot of us were without water, or unsure about, for a long time, unsure whether that water was dangerous, because although the district did take things offline very quickly, so a lot of the VOCs, which is basically, think of it as toxic material that resulted from the plastic pipes burning, right? Some of that, what happens is when the pressure is lost, it can get sucked back into the rest of the system, and then any water that is still running gets circulated with that in it. So there was a long time, depending on which area you were in which people were, they weren't sure about whether their water was safe or not. Could they be bathing in it? Could they be drinking it? There's a lot of testing that had to happen. And that was really frustrating for a lot of people. And part of the conversation that is still being had is whether we want to pay a lot more money to replace those pipes, again, underground, so they can't burn again, and with metal, so that it again, it couldn't burn, but it wouldn't melt. Particularly, it wouldn't melt into, poisonous material that would then get into the water and the earth. But there is that environmental question of whether that does more harm than good, because yes, it would prevent maybe poisonous material from going into our water and our earth, but at the same time, if we're eroding a lot of things and ruining our water district because we're, pouring sediment into the stream beds, that's obviously also a problem. So I'd love to hear more about this in the future, and I'll be very curious to see when cost comparisons come out, in terms of what can be done, and cost is not the only question here, because it is also environmentally what is maybe better for our area, right? So that's I personally love hearing about this. Again, that maybe the people in Scotts Valley had are a little less interested, but we'll pay attention to that. Donna, you have a question.
Thank you. Yeah, just two things actually, just to piggyback on what you said. I'm on the advisory committee for the Friends of San Lorenzo Valley Water, and I'm very interested in this and would like to hear a report back. And I just wanted to let you know that while we were talking here, I got an email from the president at Cabrillo saying that our next board meeting will be on Tuesday, the 17th, because Monday is a holiday for a lot of agencies. So if anybody's interested in feedback or want to observe that meeting, it's going to be on Zoom and it will be on the 17th.
Great, thank you. Okay, good. Jack, you had a presentation. I want to check real fast back in. Is there anything else on city council that we should be aware of before I move past local government?
No, there isn't. Thanks.
Okay, perfect, great. Okay, so we have, we'll try and speed through this because I know we're getting kind of late, but we have a few, a vote as to some reoccurring costs that the club has. And yes, Glenn, you're muted.
Sorry. I have a dog, and sometimes a dog barks, and so out of courtesy to the group, I mute always. Anyway, I would like to suggest, since I think all three of these are non-controversial, that they be able to be bundled in a single motion. And so if you could read off what they are, I would be happy to move the trio of them for a single vote, and we can expedite a little.
Okay. Oh yeah, I forget that you're not all looking at the agenda with me. I will also type this into the...
It's a hidden agenda.
It is a hidden agenda. So the three items are reoccurring payments. They happen each year, and they are for our website domain and hosting, which we would be asking for approval for a reoccurring vote of not to exceed $500 per year. We also have a PO box, which costs us less than $200 a year. So we would ask for a recurring payment not to exceed $200. And we also have Secretary of State filings that we have to address as a club each year. And those would cost, I believe, less than $100 per year.
Actually, it has to be two, because we do two filings a year. Oh,
okay. My bad. So we'll have to, we're going to change that to 200. So, and in the chat, you can all pretend that that last one says 200.
I move that we approve all three recurring items.
We'll give it to Marianne. Okay. All in favor of voting for all of those items? Approving all of those items?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. Approved. Great. And then final announcements I should post these in here too. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming up. The NAACP, the Santa Cruz chapter, has two events going on. On the 14th is a youth day. So if you know any youth that would like to participate, you can check out the website of the NAACP. Also, I'll mention that all of this, I've been putting more events on our own club calendar. So if it's mentioned here, it's likely on our own calendar, and there will be links and more details about those there. So you can also check there if you don't want to Google the Santa Cruz NAACP. You'll get there eventually. And then on the 16th, on Monday, there is a march downtown at 10 a.m. I believe the meeting point is on Cathcart and Pacific. And so if anyone would like to march with the Democrats, you are welcome to do so. Last I heard it was rain or shine, but again, I would check the website. And any other announcements?
While we were talking, I got a Facebook post from one of my neighbors that PG&E had actually gotten all the way up to the top log block. So there were like 3 log blocks up the road, fallen trees, and then one at the top that took out, or higher up that took up the wires, and they've already gotten up to that. So hopefully we'll have a clear road by tomorrow. Not clear when we'll have power back.
Yeah, congratulations.
But again, you know, these guys are awesome. It's just the people that we work for.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I posted in the chat that the Mid-County Democrats are meeting this Thursday, the 12th. It'll be a Zoom meeting at 6:30, and our guests will be Adam Spickler and I can never remember Matt's last name, but he's President Donna.
Matt Wettstein.
Thank you.
Wettstein. Yeah.
Wettstein. And they'll be talking about the latest on the renaming of Cabrillo College. So there's you're requested to register ahead of the meeting, and I put the link there, and we hope you'll attend.
Great. Thank you. Donna.
I just wanted to sort of piggyback on what Glenn was saying. And, you know, I'm on Glen Arbor, and the work that the folks have been doing to try to keep us connected, keep the lights on, keep the roads open has just really impressed me. I went down to the bridge at Glen Arbor a few days ago when the tree had fallen over and taken the power lines out. And I was talking to a young man who was part of the crew that were contracted with PG&E. And I was talking to him about the work they were doing. And I said, you must be working really hard and really long hours. And he said, yeah, he says, you know, I haven't seen my little girl in 2 days. He says, every time I get home, she's already in bed. And I had to be at work at 4 o'clock this morning. So I just want you to know that we need to be really grateful for those people that are out there. They're doing a heck of a job. So my comment.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. We're a few minutes over, so I guess we'll wrap up. Our next meeting is on February 7th, so we will be sending out emails and all that. But and last time, I'll plug it again. Pay your dues.
Stay safe and
let's
dry,
hope everybody
everyone.
is home by then.
Right.
From your lips to God's ears.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Tim, I'm gonna bail, but I think you're on closing this thing down.
Sure. Want me to end it? I'll end it.
End it all.
Okay.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.